Hey David, you can start introducing yourself.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. My name is David Sievers, but I actually go by Dave Sievers. So in referring to me, you can just call me Dave Sievers. That's fine. It is a privilege and an honor to be here today at the Wake Up Everybody virtual community. And I understand that this is the 1471st session that we're having, which is amazing to have started this community during, the COVID time about 5 years ago. And to, think of it, have one frame of thinking about it in terms of enduring and longevity, and to see now that, nearly 1,500 sessions is amazing. As you can see, today's session is going to be on the topic of technology, and particularly how technology can be an enabler for spiritual advancement. And this is a very important topic for me because I've spent a long time in technology. And as I'll share later on in the session, there were two main things that I discerned over the time that I was in technology. And they were both connected to how we can help ourselves through personal development by applying some of the principles, the practices, the ideas that actually I drew from technology, from being in technology. So once again, thank you everyone for joining. And I see we have Coach PJ, Adam, Brother Adam Epps. Um, I can't see all the names, and forgive me if I don't pronounce the name properly. Latifa Abdul Jabbar, I think, is here. Coach Rashida, Laura Clark. It's great. So we have people joining. And, I'm going to probably repeat this a couple of times, but, to the extent that you are prepared and able to come on cam, that would be excellent. Because, in Zoom, it's already virtual, so we're not in the presence of each other. So at least being on cam, it does support the engagement that we have as a community. So if you're able to do that, that would be greatly appreciated. And we're going to start as soon as some more people join.
Wake up, everybody. It's time to get up. Wake up, everybody. It's time to get up. Stay woke, stay woke, stay woke. It's time to get up. Stay woke, stay woke, stay woke. It's time to get up. We're healing, we're dealing, we're growing. Together, together, releasing. We're teaching, we're moving. Together, together, we're learning, discerning. We're striving. Together, together, we're leading, connecting, transforming. Together, together.
All right. So I think it's time for us to get started. And I chose to begin this session by just giving a little bit more background around how I've been spending my life over the last 40 years or so. Because it's really it provides the context for everything that we're going to talk about. So as you can see here, when I was young, like 12, 13 years old, I started out with the vision of being a professional musician, and that was largely because of my brother. My brother was a fantastic alto saxophone player. In fact, he was a instrumentalist, but he primarily played alto saxophone. And as a young kid, I was mesmerized at watching him play, watching him practice with other horn players as they were practicing the songs that they would be performing, and I just became overwhelmed with the idea of becoming a saxophone player myself. And there's a long story behind that, but to make a long story a little shorter, my brother actually ended up teaching me how to play saxophone, and that was the start of a career. So even though I started like 11, 12 years old, by the time I was in high school, I was playing professionally through, the agency of being taught by him and just, showing a lot of passion and practicing. Nevertheless, even though I envisioned myself being a professional musician for the rest of my life, there was a point, sort of like early college time, when that direction changed and I was introduced to technology. In fact, I went to a program that was headed by black professors from Columbia University in Harlem, where they had a 6-month program for minorities to come and learn how to program computers. And myself and a good friend of mine, we went through that program. And that's how I started my career in technology. But as you can see here, over the years, I became a technology leader. I'm continue to be a musician even to this day. At one point in my life, I learned how to fly planes. That's a whole nother topic, but I enjoyed being a private pilot, and I'm an instrument rated pilot to this day, even though I'm not really flying very much right now. During the course of my career, though, I worked for major institutions, which you probably know of: Goldman Sachs, uh, Morgan Stanley, and JP Morgan, to be three companies that I spent over that period of time, probably like 30 years, a little bit over 30 years of my life, working in high finance, developing enterprise systems for these companies, traveling around the world. I had teams all around the world in Asia. I'm talking like Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, also in Europe, London, Budapest, also Scotland. And for JP Morgan just recently, I was responsible for payments technology across Latin America. So I was in Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Colombia, and Mexico. And I had teams mainly across Brazil, Argentina, and Mexico. So I was constantly traveling. And it was a point in my life where I actually lived in India for 2 years in Bangalore, India. And people always ask me, so Dave, how was that? And the only thing I could say is that was interesting, because it really stretched me in ways that, I had never imagined. Nevertheless, the process of programming computers, and I'm talking like major enterprise level systems that process billions and billions of dollars every single day. That process is one where you see a problem. People express problems to you, and the whole idea is, can you design a system that can address that problem, that can enable the company to either expand into a new business or for new services or features to clients for existing businesses, or just help to make the system more fault tolerant and robust. So we were constantly, constantly making changes, and solving very complex problems through using software technology, computers and software technology. Now, a theme of my life was also being very much involved in personal personal development. While I was a technologist, or while I was a musician, and while I was a private pilot, like all throughout that time, those activities were for me very much ways that I could expand as a person. And so I studied a lot of material, spiritual development, personal development material. At one point, I even became a coach, a brave thinking coach, so a life mastery consultant. But I didn't pursue that as a profession. Nevertheless, it was something very enriching to me. And over the course in technology, people like me, especially minorities, seeing me achieve that level in my own career, were very interested in spending time with me and getting help in their own careers. And so I had the privilege and really the honor to help many, many people grow and achieve their career outcome. So through all of this, for me, my whole working life was a process of personal development. And this year, in January, early this year, I decided to retire from my career as a technologist, but I still have my horns and I'll still play music. And that's something that I intend to take up more fully as I'm in retirement. I live in Naples, Florida, beautiful place here. That I've learned over the course of the last 40 years. Number one is that programming computers is highly correlated with repatterning our own behavior and our own mindset. And you might say, Dave, like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you saying that? Well, if you think about it, like, I don't know how many people are familiar with programming, but it really boils down to writing a script that enables the program, that enables the computer to make decisions, right? So there are scripts like, if this condition, then do this, otherwise do that. And you're writing these scripts. And that's just one example of one. But we go through that process every single day, thousands and thousands of times. I don't care if it's, what am I going to eat today? If I am hungry and I have these things in my refrigerator, then I'm going to make blah, 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 and I'm going to eat this. Otherwise, I'm going to have that. Even today, like I mentioned, if it was possible for us to come on cam, that would be fantastic. But even that was a decision, right? If I feel that I am presentable or that I'm in a position where I can come on cam, I will come on, I'll click the button to open up my video. Otherwise, I'm not going to do that. Each one of those decisions is a decision that we're making, and we have these habitual patterns that oftentimes we're not even that aware of, that we're reacting out of. But essentially, the programming of our own minds is very, very similar to the exercise that I was going through programming computers. And when I realized that, that was a major aha. That was a major moment for me because then the personal development aspect changed for me because I became aware, like there's a phrase, notice what you're noticing. I became aware that the behaviors and who I was as a personality was separate from who I am as a conscious spiritual being. And that me operating through this body, I could now observe the patterns that and the thoughts and ideas and beliefs that was executing in my own psyche and begin to make changes to them as I saw fit, as I needed to exhibit new behaviors. And so that was a major, major thing for me, just making that distinction. And then the other thing that I learned, and I'm going to talk about this on the next slide or so, is that technology today can be an enabler of spiritual of advancement. I don't know how many people here are familiar with, for example, ChatGPT. I have to believe that there are some people in this community and even on this call who probably use it in one way or another. We all have phones, and there are many different apps on our phones that we use for different things. I don't care if it's, from getting from point A to point B, you put something into, the maps or, the Google Maps program, and it'll give you directions on where you go. We use technology all the time. But what I found to be very helpful for me is to use it for the process of personal development, of spiritual advancement. I'm going to give you an example of how I do that. So before I move on to the next slide, I just want to ask any questions? And thanks for the congratulations on retiring. That was a major, major change in my life. How did I find out about Wake Up Everybody? Well, you see, we have Sweetness Jennings, I think, just came on cam. She's actually the person who introduced me to this wonderful community. And you know, be it as it is, I had the opportunity to come in and share and engage with you all today, and I took that opportunity to do that, and so that's how I'm here. This is the first time that I've ever been a facilitator. First, I joined one session earlier this week, and it was fantastic, and so it's a blessing to be here. Yes, Mary Morrissey Coaching. I spent a lot of time in that community and learned a lot of things. Mary Morrissey is pretty amazing as a person and as a coach. So thank you. Um, just give me a second here. Great. Let's get to the next slide. So you reap what you sow. We all know that. Why is this relevant for this conversation and why is it relevant for me? Well, as I said, I spent 40 years in technology, and as a senior executive, I was constantly traveling to all of the countries that I mentioned earlier on the previous slide. And I was living the dream. I was traveling business class or first class. I, would land in Brazil, and when I'm in Brazil, I was doing the things that Brazilians do. When I was in Argentina, I was doing the things that Argentinians do. When I was in Mexico, I was doing the things that Mexicans do. When I was in India, I was eating Indian food, and I was living as the people there live. And so for me, what that translated into is not really taking care of my body, of my physical body. And I became overweight and I maintained, 256 was like the mid-level where I was, but I've gotten up even higher than that, probably to like 265 or so. And so that had a major effect on me. I wasn't exercising with any consistency because I was just traveling all over the place. My body is being thrown through different time zones. And so I didn't really have a good exercise routine. And as it says here, my diet was whatever they ate at the place where I was. And the food was good in a lot of ways, but it wasn't always good for me, at least not the way it turned out for me, just because of some of the things that I'm going to talk about. Late nights, socializing, getting together with my teams because I had teams at all these locations. There were other senior people that would fly in at the same time. We were having offsites, and then you go out to dinner and you're having dinner and drinks. And in Brazil, I mentioned this word saideira. In Brazil, the word in Portuguese, the word saideira means the last one. So if you're having, a round of drinks, when someone says saideira, that's like, okay, the last round. Okay. That was a joke because what Sadira really meant was the last one before the next one. And people would say Sadira, Sadira. And every time you have the last one, they would call out Sadira and you have another one. And so I don't want to make it sound like I was an alcoholic or anything, but drinking and, socializing and having a good time was very much a part of the process of me as a senior manager traveling to meet my team. Team wants to go out with you. They want to engage with you. They want to learn from you. And so that was very much a part of life. And that was all having an effect on me. In fact, by the time I retired, and you could appreciate this, I'm sure, I go through 40 years of working, and now I'm finally at the point of retirement and you want to get to your life, right? You want to do the things that you have been sort of putting off because you've been working so hard. And now at that point, at that very point, my body just shut down. It just shut down. I came down with peripheral neuropathy. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a nerve condition where your body begins to sort of attack your own nerves. And I developed weakness on the right side of my body. I couldn't walk. I was in so much pain. And I'm talking this year, right? This year, I was in pain to the degree where I was bedridden. And when I did get up, I had to actually use a walker to walk. Like I could not walk. So just December of 2024, I was, I was up and about. I was driving. I moved out of an apartment that I had in Tampa, and I was, doing my thing. Come January, February, March, I was bedridden. My body just shut down on me at the point right where I was expecting to now finally kick off and enjoy my life. This is a Mary Morrissey quote, by the way. It's in the presence of problems where you learn how to apply the laws of life and grow. It's like when you're faced with that problem, you got to think your way out of it. And that's where you start to realize, at least that's where I started to realize all of the adjustments and changes that I needed to make. So I became very, very highly motivated to restore my health as the first order of business, or else, my years of retirement would not be matching what I expected. Let's move on to the next slide. So I just wanted to share a few pictures of me. So in December, this is kind of, where I was at. Um, and this picture was actually taken in New York in December. I came to celebrate with one of my team members from Brazil who won this award. But by April, my body had shut down. I was seeing a chiropractor. I was having red light therapy. I was having, spinal decompression. I was trying everything that I could try. I was seeing doctors, neurologists. I saw a surgeon, thinking that maybe it was my back. I was having MRIs done. I mean, I was not in a good place. But by June, you see me here through all of the actions that I took. I slimmed down quite a bit. I actually lost 70 pounds in that time. And I made a lot of progress to the point where I at least, could do away with the walker. At this time in June, I was using a cane when I went outside, but in the house, I was able to get around and walk around. And, it was amazing that I had lost that much weight. Now, I'm going to just tell you some things before we go to the next slide. The, in January, like I really wasn't taking care of my body. I just wasn't. Like, as a man, especially as an older man, you're supposed to have like colonoscopies and get your prostate checked, have like regular checkups at least annually with the doctor, check your blood work, see where you're at, see how your biochemistry is, make any adjustments. My glucose was through the roof. I was, diagnosed with diabetes. And I just, in fact, I'm going to just tell you this really quickly. When I got a blood test done in January, full workup, I saw a new primary care physician. And when I went to see him to go over the results, he was actually looking down his laptop at his computer for what seemed to me like an eternity. And I was sitting there waiting for him to say something, and he just turned and he looked at me and he said, "You are so messed up." And that was not what I was expecting to hear. But nevertheless, that's what he said. And it was true. If you looked at my blood work, you could see that, my numbers were all over the place. It was just totally out of whack. And so I had to get to work. I had to get busy, and I had to create a vision of health for myself, and then form a program of actions that would enable me to live from that vision and move ever, ever, ever more progressively towards being where I needed to be. And I'll tell you, if I hadn't done those things, I would not be sitting here today because I could not sit in a chair for 15 minutes, no less 90 minutes. And I just didn't have the energy, and I was under so much pain that I couldn't sit here talking to anybody. And that's how bad it was. And you see, to be here today is truly a blessing for me. And I'm actually, privileged and honored and amazed that, in a relatively short time, I was able to make that change. But it was only through, taking specific action to address the conditions that I was facing. Um, Yes, what a blessing from the Creator that, that I woke up. And it's a privilege to wake up every day, but especially in a more spiritual way, to wake up and realize that I needed to change. And so, yes, keep praying for me because I need all the help that I can get, but I am committed to this process. So if we can, let's go to the next slide because this is where.
I would just like to read a little bit from the chat. So Laura says, "What made the shift in mindset to restore your health?"
I had no choice. There really was no choice for me because, again, I was working very, very hard, traveling all over the world, serving other people, serving the companies I was working for. And throughout all of that time, I had a vision of what I would do when I retired, even though I didn't know the exact time when I would retire. And it just so, things just worked out that in January of this year, it was either make a decision to go one way, like continue working, or retire. And I decided to retire. And so when I retired, obviously I was kind of excited about that because I thought that I have like this room is like my lab. Okay, I have a digital music production studio to my left over here, and this is my office as well. But because I was at that point of retirement where I wanted to live my life, the way I had envisioned it, finally for me, being unable to do that was a non-starter. It was a non-starter for me. So I had to make a change if I wanted to live out my life. And when I saw my own blood test results and I saw my numbers, now, I'm not asking people what their age is, but if you're 45 years or older and you haven't had a colonoscopy, there's something you should think about. Okay? Because early detection of any problems is key. And the sugar thing, it wreaks havoc on your body. And we are, our diet, the standard American diet, is just not one that promotes health. And so I was in a position where if I was to survive and to live the life that I had envisioned for myself, it was necessary for me first to get my health together. And that realization was the pivot for me. Any other questions while we're on that?
Wealthy and Wise has her hand raised.
Yes, Grand Rising, Assalamu alaikum, peace and blessings to everyone. Thank you, Dave, for stepping in. So I want to put out in the conversation a couple of different things. And right now, at this hour on this particular day, is the time I had set out to make my juice. I juice. And so I'm juicing green apple, cucumber, lime, and ginger. Green apple, cucumber, lime, and ginger. Yeah. So in regards to healthy, wealthy, and wise. That's my declaration for 2025. I declare that and decree it. And as we speak about what you so graciously agreed to share with us, is that our health is our wealth. And we tend to find that out after we've given our, I'm putting up the air quotes, best years to a company, right? To our employers. We find that out later. Some of us do. And hopefully, because you're sharing and I'm implementing things that I know, because knowing something and implementing them is two different things. You get two different results from that, what I'll say as well. And before I begin to go off and speak about too many things, what I want to also say is when I was introduced back to you, David, we grew up together on the stoop as young children. And but I was introduced to you when we both were older, and I don't know if you remember the sequence of what happened. However, it was on social media, and it was at a time where I was borderline diabetic,
Hmm.
right? And you introduced to me the cleansing the liver. Remember, we did a liver cleanse. We did a liver
Yep.
cleanse
Yep.
together, and that saved my life on two different levels, where it broadened my mind to know what could happen. You right? What could I never considered that I can do something like that and have that impact. So after the liver cleanse, I went back to the doctor and they could not prescribe me any medication because the numbers didn't require that I have any medication. And that is the case today. I'm not borderline anything, and I'm not prescribed medication for diabetes. I am not. And again, that's because I've been exposed. My son, he has wisdom and he shares it with me. My son, Coach Paul, and I apply it. He doesn't just tell me it, he'll tell you. I'm applying it because I think I deserve an abundant life. How you like that? So, and I know you do, Dave. I know you deserve it. So, again, thank you for showing up in the way that you're showing up and sharing with us. And my prayer, every day is that others will come understand that we are worthy to live a disease-free life. We are. And the body is so wise, it can happen no matter what age. And with that, I'm complete.
You know, so first of all, thank you for that expression. And it's really true. We've known each other for many years. Me and Carl, Catherine's brother was, good friends, and so we all grew up together. And so I do recall when we reconnected, a little later. One thing that I want to say, and I know that you all know this, the body is a gift. And we, as spiritual inhabitants of the body, have a responsibility to take care of it. And we take care of it through our thoughts, practices like our diet, our health, the way we care for this amazing, amazing, amazing. It is the means through which we take our visions and actually are able to manifest them. And so it is a privilege, it is a gift that we are born and that we have responsibility for this amazing machine, if you want to call it that, that enables us to operate on multiple we find ourselves in. So we need to take that very seriously and realize that, there's even a karma associated with that. And so, health is, as Sweetness said, health is the key. And as you said, healthy, wealthy, and wise, that's your thing for this year. Guess what? Before you even said that, like to me the first time, healthy, wealthy, and wise is sort of my strategy for life. Because if you're not healthy, you can't really be wealthy. Not really. And, the whole wisdom tradition that we are in is what enables us to keep all those factors in balance. Um, Let me see. Are there any other questions before we move on? I love the engagement, and thank you, Latifa, for coming on cam. Really appreciate that.
We
Okay.
have a few chats that I would like to go through.
Okay.
So Professor Marilyn DJ says, "What do you mean by notice what you are noticing? Powerful."
Wow.
Latifa says,
I
"What a
love
blessing from the Creator that you woke up and began a program to live. I pray you continue on this path." Laura says, "Yes, the sugar thing destroys our nerves. Thanks for your vulnerability and transparency, Dave." Cassandra says, "The doctor just told me that I was borderline diabetic. I would love to know more about the liver cleanse." And Michelle says, "Grand
mm,
Rising Woo family." And Purple just raised her hand.
oh, fantastic. Um, Notice what you're noticing. That was something that actually I learned from Mary Morrissey, like as a statement or as a practice. But you see, the best way to explain that. So, all right, I'm going to, even though the four agreements it says never assume, right? Don't assume. I'm going to assume that we all recognize that we are spiritual beings. I'm going to assume that. And if that assumption is incorrect as it applies to some of us, then that's okay. However, I would invite you to consider the perspective of being an observer, of being a spiritual being first, who can see through the eyes, the physical plane, can hear through the ears, can smell, can taste, can touch. Like, so we have senses and we can detect things, we can sense our environment. But even on a more internal level, we have thoughts that are going through our head. We have beliefs that we have accepted as agreements, right? We have beliefs that we have accepted, and we have patterns of behavior that have been in, that have been ingrained in our nervous system and in our bodies and in our psyche from the time that we were toddlers, from the time that we were children, people expressing their opinions and their judgments about us. Oh, you're such a beautiful this or beautiful that, or, like all of these things were going in and they were forming impressions. So now when I say notice what you're noticing, it really comes down to, can you take a step back from yourself as a human being, as a physical being, as a personality that is, sort of operated on by thoughts and feelings. And instead of believing that those things are you, to recognize yourself as a spiritual being that is observing those operations happening inside your psyche, inside your mind, inside your body. Like, I'm sure if you weren't feeling well in some part of your body, like my back was excruciatingly painful, I was noticing that. Okay, I couldn't help but notice it. And it's the same thing when it comes to our thoughts. Like, a thought can pass through your head like, I am hungry. And, immediately the picture of the refrigerator and you going for the refrigerator can happen. And normally we just respond, we just react in this way, and just out of habit. We just make the move. But when you develop the ability to notice what you're noticing, you you detach yourself as an awareness, as a conscious being, as consciousness itself, and you just observe those thoughts passing through. You observe those feelings in different parts of your body. You observe how, somebody looked at you a certain way and, that looking at me like that. But you felt like their eyes was in your direction. And when they looked at you that way, the thought might have come up in your head like, why are you looking at? So when you notice what you're noticing, you don't get caught up in that, but you kind of step back as if you're observing those things happening and you notice it. And that's all. You just notice it. And once you're able to take that perspective of the observer, you begin to detach yourself from the automatic reactions that occur. And you have a point where you can say, wait a minute, no, I'm not going to do that. Like the thought might come into your head, I have a craving for, some ice cream or for a slice of pizza. Or like one of my favorite things was Famous Amos cookies with Haagen-Dazs butter pecan ice cream. I loved it. Don't ask me why. I just loved it. And so come through and maybe there would be a reaction to sort of want to go get it. But as an observer, I can say, wait a minute, no, I'm going to make a choice to- that I got from being able to step back and observe what was going on in my body, what was going on in my mind, experiencing, and I could now observe them and make a choice as to whether that was something that I wanted to allow happen. Indulgence, but self-awareness in general, right? To be aware of oneself and how you're operating and realize that you are not your thoughts, you are not your body, you are not your emotions. These are effects that's happening, right? And so I became through my okay, I'm going to give you this example. Hopefully, this will help to burn it. When I was programming computers, I knew that I was not the computer. The computer was a machine, and I had certain techniques that I could use to input commands to make the computer behave the way I wanted it to behave. I was the programmer of the computer. And it's the same thing when it comes to us as human beings. Like, I'm not the human being. I'm operating through the human being. I'm the consciousness that's operating through the human being. This is my perspective. If you have a different belief system, I honor that. I'm saying this is Dave Sievers' belief system that I'm not the body and I'm not the responses. I'm not those actions the same way I'm not the computer. I have control of everything that's happening in my environment. Because I am the conscious and that now has the opportunity to operate in any way that I need to operate based on the conditions or the situation that I find myself in. So my habits don't control me. I control my habits. I establish the habits that I want to be habits so that I can create the effect that I want. Like this is the but more importantly, over the last year, it really got driven home for me when I had to, I wanted. Ah,
Uh, well,
so,
thank you, David. Before you go on to read in the chat, we will support you. And Purple's hand is up, and then we'll read the chat after.
Okay.
Mhm.
Morning, family. Dave, I love this presentation. Thank you for sharing what you said the other day. It added to the breakthrough. So glad to be back with you and others. I'm going to continue on this language. I think my relationship with technology, I literally have anxiety with technology from the beginning. I found a story because I'm like, what's the relationship? What's the cause of the virus? Right? I'm trying to get to the root, but I don't, because it's blocking and hindering. I have the creative genius and I often have to hire somebody. You just learn the editing software for video or the audio recording, and they give me the start. I've taken 1 or 2 classes. When it comes to online classes, not doing good with that, self-taught. So you're saying somewhere I programmed the belief. There's a belief somewhere, but I to be a belief. Now, now when this is why I don't even know this with technology. So when you got a virus, you go find where the virus is at and what the virus is. How do y'all take care of the virus and technology? Because I'm thinking if I listen to it through the technology thing, because I've been trying to do it philosophically, emotionally, spiritually. So maybe, today I said, wow, I'm realizing I need to look at this through technology to create a new relationship with technology. So how do y'all do it? How do y'all find the viruses in the program when the program is all off and you've been working with that program for decades and didn't know you was off?
Well, computer viruses are insidious. They operate in ways, these things are created by people. People create viruses. Like the computer doesn't get sick, right? People create viruses and they inject them into the computer. And there's all kind of things that you have to be very mindful of. Social engineering, people sending you things and it's, oh, your account is about to be the virus, or you allow the virus into the environment of your computer. So to get rid of it actually requires software that can see the anomalous behavior and wipe out that virus. Sometimes you might have to wipe out your computer and reinstall it, reinstall the operating system. It's an operating system in the computer. It is an operating system in us. But you might have to reinstall the operating system to just completely wipe out. And I don't want to take a lot of time on this, but I have a music studio workstation over here, and I haven't been playing music this whole year. Okay. So yesterday I felt good enough to try to turn the thing on, and it would not turn on. And the message I got was, you have to reinstall the Mac OS operating system. I was like, what? And I was concerned that it came back up and it's working just fine. So, but to get rid of a real computer virus, you got to have virus protection, first of all, and you got to run some software that'll help you detect which virus it is. And depending on which virus it is, there may be a way to eliminate the virus. Like you get a vaccine that can eliminate viruses and other kind of bacterial infections we might have in our body. But there's analogous, software that you can use to help you do that with your computer. It would be hard for me to answer that more specifically, not knowing.
Thank you. This was poetry, because again, I'm listening to the technology to get it over here. And what I heard is when you said social systems, I said, oh, beliefs sometimes can be planted by outside people when I was younger, right?
Yes.
It could have been different things in social systems in school or others. So the beliefs, right? And so software. ideas and the beliefs I now have about my lack of or whatever. That's got to get softened, software,
You can
and it
change.
might have to be cleaned out.
It might have
Cleared
to,
out. It might have
well,
to be cleared out to plant new
yes,
beliefs. So those have to grow, and that's the
yes.
cleansing and the work around the old beliefs. So this was
Or-
perfect. Thank you.
And that's what
Thank
the
you so much.
noticing is all about. Like when you notice you have that belief, I am not good at this or I can't do that. That's something that you notice. You say, well, where did that come from? And then you change it. You just substitute that belief for a different belief, right? And so that's what personal development became for me. And I'm glad that you're seeing that too, Purple. Any other hands raised, or I'll just reach out to.
Latifa has her hand raised.
Okay, so we are at almost at the 8 o'clock hour. Can we get to the next slide, please?
Excuse me, brother, I have my hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
No, that's okay. Um, Assalamu alaikum, peace and blessings to you all. Oh my gosh, am I glad I'm on here? Because as you were talking about the computer, me as that computer, when I started noticing and began to wipe out, literally wipe out what was happening to me, I changed. I'm a vegan now and I've been this for a long time and I'm feeling so much better. I get organic food. My son-in-law here is a great chef and he fresh foods and those viruses are not getting to me. And
Wow.
I refuse to let negativity come into me. I've changed who I'm around. I love them, but I can't be around them. And when I hear my daughter and my son-in-law talk to their little one, and when he says I can't, and they tell him you can, there is no word that can't. Woo! Just motivates me to get more out of that can't. And I don't use that word. I am capable. And it's up to me to go ahead because the Creator, Allah, has put it in us. You don't know, I feel like shouting, and I am shouting over here. So may Allah continue to bless you and all our sisters that are sharing purple. Ashe. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. No, that was amazing. I think we need a moment of silence after that. No, that was beautiful.
No, we have healthy, wealthy, and wise right now.
Yes, we do. A moment of silence. That was beautiful, Dave. So, thank you, sister. So when you and Purple were creating poetry, the software stood out. Stood out for me. Last night I was talking to Coach Paul. Coach Paul is inviting another baby into this world on this planet shortly. And so, as a grandmother, you want to buy something for the baby. So, I was checking with Paul about the material that he's choosing for the baby to wear. So, as we're having this dialogue about being healthy and understanding that our health is our wealth, just taking it a step further or upward, I'll say, is that he prefers cotton for his children to wear. He already has a son, a 3-year-old son, and he's inviting another baby. And so I wanted to make sure that I buy something that's agreeable to them. I just don't want to buy something because they have a lot of cute things, but the material is not as soft as maybe it needs to be or made out of. And some of the material is very soft, camouflage and as cotton. And so I want to throw that out there as well, is to be mindful of not just what we put in our mouth and what goes through the eye gate, what we look at and listen to, also be conscious of what we put on our body It's not by incident that they're making material, right? They're making up material, just like the foods we're eating now. They're making up certain preservatives and things to encourage us to eat more and not be well. So the same thing with the clothing, the materials. If you look at this, and you're gonna see it, if you take a moment to read what the material is in something that you're buying, some things you're not even going to be aware of. You're not even going to be able to pronounce it. You're not going to know what it is because they're making things up. So I want to put that out there as you are sharing all this wisdom with us today. So thank you again for the presentation. And with that, I'm complete.
Thank you. I just wanted to make one announcement. We're at the 8 o'clock. We're at the top of the hour at 8 o'clock, and there may be some people who need to leave at 8 o'clock. And so, thank you for joining. And, hopefully, if there's any other things that you missed from the session, that'll be made available to you. But, I really applaud and appreciate everyone being here. And I had some things prepared, but the engagement is much more important. So thank you for all that, whether you're in the Facebook community or looking at this through YouTube or here on Zoom. I just want to let you know that we honor you and the time that you're here. So if you have to leave, it's okay to do that.
Before we move to the next slide, we have some chat that I would like to go through. Laura says, I'm the observer of my life. I am the soul. Coach PJ says, can we notice? Are we aware of what it looks like? Conscious and with understanding, can we receive the signals and vibrations, or are we blocked, like the program app or computer? You must replace and update the software in order to get the latest, best version running on the fastest system. Cassandra says, I noticed that I was on auto with Starbucks. I had to reprogram myself to get in the lane farthest from the turning lane into Starbucks. Professor Marilyn DJ says, in life, most diseases are self-inflicted based on environmental programming like fast food, misinformation, and pollution. Reset, reboot. Gina says to Purple, that sounds like a song. And Coach PJ says, yes, Queen Latifah. Professor Marilyn DJ says, children's minds are programmed. They learn as they live. Garbage in, garbage out, intelligence in, intelligence out. Kaisha says, congratulations, Coach PJ. Thank you, Kaisha and your Woo family. Coach PJ says, programmers create viruses to take control of your processing system and get rid of you. Create an awareness of what these programmers look like so you know not to open their link metaphorically. Adam says Hollywood and hip hop music. Laura says, thanks, Coach PJ. How do we recognize these programmers? This is the contact information for Dave shared by Kaisha. And Laura says, congratulations, Coach PJ. Kaisha has her hand raised.
Okay.
Hi, yes, I just wanted to read the chat from Facebook. We have Miss Sandra Holmes. She says, thank you for your information. We received and appreciate it. Blessings to you.
Thank you.
And I am complete now. And we can move forward.
Yeah, I think there was a question like, how do you recognize, the viruses or the beliefs that can be viruses? The way that I recognize it is by looking at what's happening in my life. If something, so again, this is something that we were going to talk about a little later, but we may not have time to get to it. For any area of your life, you're either experiencing discontent, like something that is not quite the way you want it to be, or you're just exceedingly happy. And if you can notice the discontent, you start to ask questions, okay, not necessarily why am I experiencing that, but this is something that I would like to change in my life. It could be with respect to a relationship, your job, your money, your health. It doesn't, matter. It could be any area of your life. But when you start to notice that something just doesn't feel right, or you would love for that to be a different way, that's when you know that there's some belief or there's some process that's happening in your body or in your life that is causing you to have an experience that is not exactly what you want. And those are the things that I would zero in on and say, And my favorite question, which we hopefully get to, is what would I love? You don't have to have like, why is this happening? What's the cause? You don't have to go through all of that. It's just notice the discontent and then just say, what would I love? And the answer to that question creates a visual presentation in your imagination of what you want. And when you are able to create that vision and impress that and focus on that, that's when changes begin to happen. At least that's when they happen for me, right? And I would invite you to be skeptical about that, but to listen to it and maybe even try it for yourself and see what results you get. And if it's working, then keep doing it. If it's not working, then maybe there's a need for a change. But that's how I know if something is not right somewhere. I just experience some level of discontent. Um, but if there's no, oh, I see another hand raised, Coach PJ.
Grand Rising Wolf family. Brother Dave, thank you for your presentation and for your presence this morning.
Thank you.
So a question was asked in reference to what I said. I so appreciate the topic because it allows us to have something that we are all connected with currently, and allows us to bridge a gap of how we can gain more consciousness. And in my words, consciousness is the ability to notice. And so I think the question was, well, how do we equip ourselves to notice the virus or the programmers that are trying to take over our system? Well, part of it is a little bit of what everybody is saying. I really love Queen. I call her Queen Latifah. It just rolled. Mother Queen is the awakening, not to ignore, like you said, Dave, what feels good to you, and then to ignore those things that don't make us feel good, the things that don't serve us. We have Mother Sweetness. That's some language that she also uses with me. And as she shared, what I shared with her was the consciousness that I'm going to put myself first. Meaning, if someone else is disturbing my processor, I can't mess with that program. If these foods are actually disturbing my ability to take the information and see it, I shall not eat those foods. That's how I block. So that would be our malware or our virus software that will fight and get rid of anything it sees when it comes into this environment. Why? Because we're in control. And that's the consciousness that you spoke of. If I'm in control and I believe I'm in control, then I have the ability to say no. I have the ability to say no, and I have the ability to say yes.
100%.
And so I think I know what everybody's dealing with. I'm dealing with it now with introducing my daughter into this world, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, is how can I equip her with the early information? Because we're all supercomputers. So we have to program our children. All right, I know our elders are here, and I wish there was some more of my peers or some younger people with families to understand we take back control of ourselves, our culture, when we consciously feed our children what it is that they need to do.
Wow.
So that's part of what I'm doing. And I know some of the people here have heard me speak in the past about health and wealth. All right. Our health is our consciousness. Um, I think today has motivated me to say I shall have another session so that we can all get back to getting to the ground so that we can reconnect. I see you, Mother Sweetness. So we can get to the ground. We can reconnect ourselves with Mother Earth, ground ourselves with those vibrations so that we can stay in a more consciousness of the healthy things we need so these viruses don't break us down.
Well
I,
said.
I've spoken, Ashe.
Well said. 100% agree. Any other hands up? If not, we can move on. Wow.
We have
I
some
will
chat.
I
Satya says
say the
multi-part sessions or series are a big thing in Woo Beloved. And Professor Marilyn DJ says allergic reactions, memory loss,
okay.
attitude trends, the whole gamut, viruses, and control cookies. Should we move on to the next slide?
Yes, we can. So the previous discussion was really about the analogy between computers and programming computers and how that is it correlates to us as human beings and spiritual beings operating through this body and how we can program and control our environment in our lives through through realizing those paradigms and making changes to them and like Coach PJ said, making the decision to say yes or no because we're in control, right? So we don't have to just react to anything. This part, though, is something else that I came to the realization of is that, you know what, when we decide to make a change in our lives, we have we have so many more resources available to us today to help us and to give us insight and to help us monitor and stay on track. And in my journey, I've made use of those tools to help me to really create the effect that I want in my life. And I just wanted to take a moment to give you some examples. So this is a screenshot of one group that I have on my phone, Healthy. Believe it or not, I have a Wealthy and I have a Wise as well. And there's certain apps that's in each one of those in those groups. But in the Healthy group, the first thing I did was, okay, I'm in paid, and I know what that experience is. I don't have to think about that one. But what do I want? What would I love? I want to see myself back in the gym working out, getting out, traveling again, being able to walk freely or to even run freely. Like these are things that I was not able to do, right? The discontent was obvious, but the vision of what I wanted, how did I see myself living? I live in Naples, Florida, and I have a pool in the back, right? But I don't use the pool. And so to be able to just jump in the pool and swim and enjoy the pool with my wife or with my family. My daughters are coming here this weekend. So these are the things that I am so happy and grateful to be able to do. But what got me there? And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the process that I went through. So first, forming this clear vision. And this is a very important point. Holding the vision of what it is that you want while you're taking the action that's moving towards that outcome. Most people kind of do it separately. They spend some time meditating, thinking about what they want, and then they might take an action, but they're not thinking about what they want while they're taking that action. That's how you impress that action or that picture on your subconscious, okay, to use that word. Nevertheless, those are two things that I did. The other thing that I did is I started using my blood tests very seriously. So I got my blood results and I was noticing all of the numbers that was that was out of range. And it was like, what do I need to do? What do I need to change in my diet? What do I need to, supplements? Like, what do I need to do to begin to bring those numbers in line? Because my vision is when I do my full blood workup, everything is in line. All my numbers are in range. My body is balanced, right? I want to know that my liver is operating properly. I want to know that my kidneys are operating properly. I want to know that my pancreas and that my lungs and my heart and my circulatory system and all of the systems of my body, that they're operating in an optimal way to support me in my effort to live and be the best that I can possibly be. Like that was my vision. Okay. So I was getting blood tests taken at Quest Labs, and they have an app. My Quest, when the labs are done, they show you the results. So you know what I was doing? I was uploading my blood test results to ChatGPT, asking ChatGPT to give me an analysis of my blood tests and to tell me, and to give me some tips or some information about things that I could do. And I developed a supplement regimen by having ChatGPT analyze my blood test results and give me some insight as to various supplements that I could take, which could help to bring my numbers in line. Now, I just didn't take the word of ChatGPT because that's technology too. I got informed, and then when I met with my doctor, I would talk to my doctor about these things. And it just turned out that like I went to one neurologist and he said, you know, vitamin B12, B complex, alpha lipoic acid, very nourishing to your nervous system. So guess what? Amazon.com. And I even asked ChatGPT, what are the best brands to use, to purchase? Because there are some supplement companies where you buy the supplement, it don't do nothing for you, because it's not really an optimal formulation. But there are certain companies like Thorne, which I'm not advocating for any company in particular, but this is the information I got, where, Thorne was an excellent company that made pure supplements that had the things that it had to the potency that it said. And so I purchased a variety of supplements that could work together to help me. And guess what? When I first got my HbA1c, if you don't know what that is, that's a measure of your blood, the average blood glucose over 90 days. And that number should be 5.6 or lower for you to not have a problem with glucose, to not be diabetic or pre-diabetic. Pre-diabetic is like 5.7 to 6.4. My HbA1c, when I first got it in January, was 11. Okay. 11, which is like off the scale. It's not really off the scale, but it's really, really high. And when they tested my blood glucose, it was like up to 300. So, and I can understand why my doctor said, oh man, you messed up. But like Latifah, I changed my diet. I cut out all meat. I started juicing, like vegetable juices. And as I started to nourish my body, the right way, and I started taking the supplements, by the time I went back for my second blood test I think it was in April, my number had dropped to 6.3 from 11 to 6.3. And my doctor looked at me. He was like, wow, like what did you do? And I broke it down for him. Nevertheless, I was using the technology to help me dial in the changes that I need to make. And so I needed to hydrate. Okay, I'm just picking examples. So Water Llama, there are many apps that do this, but I just chose this one. Water Llama. It's just a simple app that helps you to measure and keep track of how much you're hydrating, how much water are you drinking every day. Like if I asked you, how much water you drink every day? Most people, even I was saying, oh, I would drink like 60 ounces a day, but there was no science behind it. I didn't really know. I was kind of guessing, and it was changing every day. Now I use water llama. Every time I drink water, I log it in water llama, and I have a goal of 87 ounces a day. And throughout the day, I drink, at least since I've been using that app, I've been drinking 87 ounces. I got on a program of intermittent fasting, zero. This is a simple app where you just log, I chose a 16-hour fasting, 8 hours period where I eat. So from the time that I have my last meal of the day, I click the button to say start fasting, and it calculates 16 hours. And once I reach that 16-hour period of fasting, I just end fast. And that's when I start eating. Okay. And the things that I was eating also changed. But I'm using these apps and they're all integrated with each other. So, my Water Llama integrates with Apple Health. Zero, integrates with Apple Health. The Aura Ring. Again, I'm not doing a sales pitch here or advocating that people buy Aura rings. But for me, this was extremely helpful because I could see my circadian rhythm. I can see how well I was aligned with that. It monitors my heart rate, the heart rate variability. It even, after a while, can tell you what your cardiovascular age is. And it just so happens that my cardiovascular age is in range. It's actually 4 years younger than 68. So my cardiovascular age is like 64. But that, like, how do you know that? Right? I track my sleep, how much time I'm sleeping. It gives you all of these statistics about your vitals. There's educational information in these apps to tell you, how you can improve this, how you can improve your sleep, things that you should do here, things that you should do here. And I have been using these things. I use a continuous glucose monitor. Okay, if you don't know what that is, it's a little device that connects to this app, Freestyle Libre. I'm actually using a slightly different app right now, but basically what happens is this device, instead of you pricking your finger over and over and trying to test your blood, this thing you attach, it has a little needle in it. You don't even feel it, but you wear it all day long and it tells you what your glucose level is in real time. So I was able to dial in my diet using the continuous glucose monitor because I would eat, I'm making a joke now, but if I ate some Haagen-Dazs ice cream, my glucose would go through the roof. If I ate rice, through the roof. I had some millet the other day. My wife, she's a wonderful cook. She made some millet through the roof. Okay, so as soon as I see that effect on my insulin and on my glucose, just stopped eating it. I just said no. My wife said, "Oh, I'm gonna make some rice." She's from the Philippines and she loves rice, and I love rice too. But I just decided I am not eating rice because I know what it does to my body. And I'm trying to bring my levels, the average of my levels, even down to where I reverse the type 2 diabetes completely. I don't even want to be pre-diabetic. Okay, I want my numbers to be 5.6 or lower. Okay. Apple Watch is also something that I have and that I use. I track all my exercise with this. So all I'm saying is that, for any area of your life that you want to dial in this case, in this example, is health, there's a variety of apps that you can use to help you stay aware and to know exactly what's happening in your body, to know how the changes that you're making are actually working or not working, and to just help you progressively dial it in to where you can get to an optimal state. And so I highly recommend that you use the technology that's available to us. You use the resources that are available to us to help you stay on point, to help you stay on track. I'm going to pause there. I see hand
Laura
raised.
has her hand raised.
Yes, Grand Rising. Wow, Dave. Oh my gosh, you have me here. Wow. So wow for me. And thank you for this blueprint. I want to share an experience where I got this epiphanic moment. I also suffer from carpal tunnel, it's nerves issue in my hands. I
Hmm.
was on the train in Florida, and I saw a man with wearing like boxer gloves, except with the fingers out.
Hmm.
So of course I asked him, "What's going on with your hands?" And he told me he had carpal tunnel in both hands. He had surgery, and the doctor told him, "Listen, if you go back to eating the same way, the starches, the processed food, you will experience carpal tunnel again in 2 years."
Hmm.
And he said, "Listen to me. This is exactly what's happening to me. I did not change my diet. I went back eating the same old way. And I am again with carpal tunnel. Had I listened to the doctor, I probably wouldn't have been going through this again." Well, for me, I had changed some part of my diet. I was believing, I knew about the rice, the flour. I eliminated those from my diet because, like you, I would feel the burning when
Hmm.
I eat certain things. So I'd eliminated it. But the thing I did, and culturally, I grew up eating a lot of ground provision, if you know what that is, banana, yam, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I switched from the complex starches, went back to my yams and bananas, thinking that that would be better. But no. So listening to that brother, really, really, I got it. It was when you talk about epiphanic, it was this knowing, not believing anymore. It was the knowing.
Hmm.
And I came home, I changed my diet completely, completely, because now I know. Now I'm not believing it's this, it's that. Now I know for sure.
Right.
So I'm so grateful for you coming on this morning, sharing your experience, your life, and giving us this blueprint. So thank you, brother. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for that. That was amazing. I'm so glad to hear when, people realize things and they make changes and they see the results. Like that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. We are just about at the half hour mark, and I know that there's probably some other things. I would be sinning, okay, if I didn't share one more slide in here, which I don't know what the number is, but I'm going to give some instructions. Hold on. Yeah, there's just one other slide, but while we're waiting for that to come up, I'm happy to, you know, entertain any more comments. Yes, Nija,
Good morning, brother. It's Nigel. Thank
Nija.
you. Thank you for this. I had a question with the use of technology, and I am coming around. I was a late adopter to many technology systems. And so, one of the questions that I have with the use of technology is security and privacy of personal information.
Mm.
So, these apps that you mentioned, how do they manage that? And is there a concern, or should we be concerned about all of this private, very sensitive health information being captured by someone else and used for whatever?
So the short answer to that is yes, you should be concerned. And, in all of these apps, they do have privacy options where you can decide what gets shared and what doesn't, whether your trust level for that is, whatever your trust level is for that. For me, like my Quest is the medical facility itself, and that's the app that they have, which allows you to see your own blood test results. But like Apple Health, there's only, I use it because it kind of integrates, but I don't share, I choose not to share my personal information. Sometimes they say, oh, it'll be shared anonymously. Even for those options, I say no. Because this is not about them. It's about me in this particular regard. So, but you bring up a great point. You do have to make intelligent decisions about what you share through these applications. Zero is harmless. Like you're just logging, when did I start fasting? When did I finish fasting? Even in the Aura app, you can take a picture of the meal that you're eating and it'll analyze with their AI. It'll analyze that meal and tell you whether it's a nutritious meal or maybe on a less nutritious. So there isn't like super sensitive information other than like the blood test results, which you definitely want to, you don't want to be putting that out there. Um, But it's a great point. It's a great question.
Thank you.
Do we have that slide?
Okay, so we are working on it. So I will read the chat while Raina pulls that up. So Jackie, okay, so Laura mentioned um, she mentioned complex starch is 8 culprits for the body in her experience. And then Jackie asked Laura, and Laura could probably answer in the chat, what did you cut out of your diet? And we currently have Kojo's hand raised.
Okay, I can answer. I'll tell
Mhm.
you what, let's take Kojo first, but answering what I cut out of my diet is a two-part question because there's things that I cut out and there's things that I added. But nevertheless, that might take a little longer to answer. Kojo?
Yeah, peace. Peace to the Wu family. Peace and blessings, everybody, this morning. I don't have a question. I have just a compliment, just to the subject and to the entire discourse that I've been, listening to as I came on this morning. And it's great, just great energy, great information. And I just want to give my applause to you for this topic and the way you're approaching it and the information being passed through. I agree and know that the security measures, the awareness and the concern around security and the various apps and things like that, um, very important. And yeah, like you said, in ChatGPT, in a lot of the apps, there's security measures, even in our Gmail and our Google, there's security measures there. Just have to go into the settings. Takes a little reading and things like that, but it's definitely there. And it brings to mind the awareness that one of the big concern and uh, uh, um, money making and around control of information and data, um, around where the health industry will be kind of moving. This the awareness of when you speak of the Apple app, and even using ChatGPT to keep track of and analyze. Um, I know that there's talk in the finance world, in the investment world around what maybe Apple in particular will be doing um, where it concerns to um, issuing health, keeping track of health, issuing prescriptions, things like that, integrating in with the medical with doctors and the medical industry in terms of how prescriptions are distributed and given out. and who has access. Same thing with Amazon and other companies alike. I'm not sure if may have some feedback on that. But this is a great conversation. Thank you. Thank you. That was really my purpose of getting on the call.
Thank you so much for that, Kojo. Again, I'm not an expert on everything, and I'm probably in a position now where I'm concerned about the the possibility of things leaching out into the public that I wouldn't want to be there. However, the value of using these tools for me right now is, I just sort of place more preponderance on that. And I'm not seeing this as something that I need to do for the rest of my life. It's just to get me through this transition. In terms of where the industry is going, there are amazing things happening technologically. And I'm not going to make a commentary on or a judgment about whether it's good or not good. However, I know that technology in the industry of health is being used to an amazing degree. In fact, in my role at JP Morgan, I was involved with a company who was in that particular niche, and we were doing the payment processing for that company. So there are some very interesting things that's happening, and even companies like you mentioned, like Amazon and Apple, like do they really have to get into health? But there are opportunities there, and so but I'm like laser focused on getting my health together. So I'm not saying that as an excuse. I'm just saying that to say that I'm probably in that focus. There's a lot of things that's out of my field of vision that perhaps I should be paying more attention to, but I'm not right now. So I can't speak authoritatively on kind of like the industry, at least not right now. But I agree with you in your sentiments for sure.
Mm. Thank you, Dave. Rana, if we're ready, you could pull up the slide. But in the meantime, I will read. Oh, there we go. Just real quick, Jacqueline stated that my Apple Watch has some pretty good apps included for health. I will have to rewatch this session. And so you can continue, Dave. Mm.
Yeah. So I just have to mention this because I don't want to make it sound like I just, envisioned, the life that I wanted and I started taking action and everything just started happening. Because the reality is, without this person in my life, her name is Gillette, Jelet. Without her in my life, I would not be where I am right now because when I was bedridden and not able to move the way we normally move. I'm talking about like get up and take a shower for yourself or get dressed. Like these are somewhat simple things, but I wasn't able to do it initially. And she was always there. And I just have to I, I don't know what to say. Like, there's no words I can express that would really communicate the deep gratitude that I have for my amazing wife. And this was another moment that I went through like 13 years ago. I went through a divorce. I decided, or there was a decision for us to get divorced, me and my previous wife. And, that was that was challenging. Nevertheless, I landed up in a wonderful, wonderful place with someone who is absolutely amazing. And this session would not be complete had I not just let everybody know that um, that I had a lot of support in my efforts to make the changes, and I'm just so grateful and so happy to be where I am right now. But I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Gillette taking care of me through those rough times. Now I'm able to take care of myself a little bit again, but in the beginning I wasn't able to do that. She was more than there. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted the community to know that it's so important that we have the right support in our lives, that we have people in our life that's supporting our vision, that's in line with what it is that we're striving to achieve, and that, we consider each other to be soulmates. We're just like so aligned, and it's, I don't know, I'm just so grateful to have her in my life.
All right. Well, thank you, Dave. We will continue in the way that you want us to. So we are following your lead at this point.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, it's 8:40 now. I really, time for me is life. Okay. Every moment of time that we spent, and this was a very rich, you know, period of time that we spent together. But time is life. And, I know that we all, probably have things that we have to get onto. I know my daughters are coming in from New York, New Jersey. They're flying into Florida. So I got to get to the airport and pick them up. So I just want to respect everyone's time and just, give deep appreciation for you all being here and leaning in and engaging the way you all have.
Can I jump in quickly? Great morning, Woo family. This is Andrea Fisher. I just want to say thank you, brother. You hit, as we say back home, you hit the hammer on the nails today. Lots of nails. So I really, really do appreciate you. I'm on my way to church, but I really appreciate the conversation. Really, really do. Inspiring. Wow. All I can say is wow, wow, and wow. And keep doing what you're doing. I know you have inspired all of us on the Zoom call today. And I really, really appreciate that. And thank you, Sister Sweetness, for having your brother come on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hold on a second.
Should we move on to the next slide?
Yeah, that's just really quick. You can just show that last slide, and then the content that I have for today. We didn't get through all of it, but we got through the most important part of it. So yes, there's just one more slide. And this is, the thought that I want to leave you all with. Finally, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good rapport, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Let that be what manifests in our lives. So thank you once again, everyone, for engaging and sharing. And, maybe there will have to be a part two. There's some other things. There are definitely a lot of things to discuss. But it was a great honor to be here with all of you today.
Thank you so very much, Dave, for such an interactive and informative session. This is the contact information for Dave if somebody wants to be in touch with him. His Facebook handle and email are provided here. If you want to offer love offerings and donation to Spirit of Women Leadership Development, you can do that via this email. You can use Zelle or QuickPay using this email, or you can do Cash App with Spirit of a Woman. And the code specifically for today's session would be #1471DS. You can use that for love offerings and donations for this particular session. You can also enroll in monthly automated love offerings and donations. You can do as however you would like, $25 a month, 50, 75, or $100 a month. And you can use this provided information for that enrollment or registration for monthly love offerings. On Monday, October 6, 2025, we have this session Adding Value in the Village with Cultural Literacy, facilitated by Marilyn Douglas Jones. And we would like the Woo Nation welcomes all the new members. This is a community where we come to learn, elevate, and ascend. We would like to extend our warm wishes and greetings for the existing members who have been with us for a long period of time, and the ones, and we would like to welcome the ones who are newer to this space. This is Wake Up Everybody's schedule for live Zoom live workshops, Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m., and Monday and Wednesday, 7 to 7:30 a.m. And you can also, we stream live on Facebook. You can get text alerts by texting Woo Nation to 74121, and you would get a Wake Up Everybody alerts through text. And you can register for Wake Up Everybody series by registering by Wake Up Movement. This handle, you can use the Facebook handle for private and public pages. There's this Instagram handle at Wake Up Everybody Virtual. There's a YouTube link provided on YouTube, and you can ask for any queries or concerns. You can email at info.wakeupseries@gmail.com. And now I would like to unmute, I would like to request you all to unmute yourself and offer your love shower for Dave for this session. Thank you so very much, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. This was awesome.
Thank
The
you, Belinda.
information you
Thank you.
shared
Thank you.
is
Gonna have to go back and
useful, and I'm
but
going
Thank
before
you
that
to
so
go
though,
ahead
much.
and
This was
type
I
amazing. We
out
needed
the
this.
um
We needed to
hopefully
support
to
the
get in
community
about
this morning.
5 minutes in, so I gotta
Thank you
be
for
very
your
catch up this
time
part.
and your energy
Thank
and
you.
your
And looking
knowledge.
forward to part
May
two,
God
part
bless
three,
you and everything that you put
whatever
your hand
perhaps
to
offers I'm
return to
looking
you a
forward to.
hundredfold.
Thank you.
Safe travels and
Love you
enjoy
all.
your
Love you, Woo
daughters
family.
this weekend, your family. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Keep it going.
Peace and blessings.
I'm on back now. Thank you.
One love.